Here we are at part 2 of trimming up the mesquite bonsai trees. Now this was part 1, you already saw this, but I'm pointing at right there where a little bud is shooting out of there. I cut the mesquite tree and I showed you a little later on the video, the latter part of the video, you'll see where that got really bigger. Now this piece here got too big and I took it out of the pot. This tree here I took out and I transplanted it. So the only ones we're going to have in this pot are this plant and the one to the right. And as you can see, I twisted that around. It's a little young baby mesquite tree, and I was able to twist it around in a little knot and tie it up there, and I wanted to see if it could survive, and so far it has survived. So this plant here we took out. We took out of the pot because we don't want the pot to be too crowded as these plants get bigger. And remember, these are going to be indoor bonsai trees. So what we're doing here is we're trying to document how this experiment works. We're going to try to do some inside mesquite tree bonsai plants, and I'm going to try to experiment with it. And you can come along for the ride to see how it works. Like I said, I'm not an expert on this, but we're going to experiment, use a little bit of common sense, and see what we can do. So here's the next part, the new part. As you can see, we're going to do some trimming. Today we're going to do some trimming because that's what bonsai is all about, right? Bonsai is about keeping it miniature, trimming it up. So we're going to trim the biggest piece. Okay, and we're going to trim this one too. This one has two. Remember the first part of the video where I said you could barely see the bud shooting up? Okay, anyhow, we're going to trim this big one off. So that's the first trim. And now this was the bud. Remember the first part of the video I said, you see that tiny bud? You can barely see it. This is actually how big it got. So we're going to trim it halfway up. And we're going to trim the other side. So it had actually two branches sprouting out from each side, which is good. We like that. Two branches coming from one side. And what makes these branch out is when you actually try to trim them. When you trim them. Now this one over here is getting too big, so we're going to trim it halfway. We're going to trim it also. Yes, the one in the middle, we're not going to trim it. It's not growing so fast. We'll trim this one right here. And after we trim it, another branch will sprout out. That's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do here and we hope it's going to branch out right there. See? That's right there in that area. We hope for it to branch out there and there. And this will give it some character, hopefully, and keep it small.